After thoroughly studying the case file of one of our patients, I realized just how vast the spectrum of strange and inexplicable illnesses in our hospital truly is. To be honest, before that I had never really thought of the patients as people. Once someone is labeled insane, they're immediately cut off from the sympathy and understanding of everyone around them, slowly stripped of what little humanity others still allow them to have. For example, one of our patients refuses to speak to anyone who won't let her touch their temples. She claims she has to check whether their nerve fiber is protruding, whatever that means. Aside from that and a mild case of paranoia, she seems perfectly normal. Yet I used to dismiss her without a second thought as just another crazy patient. I wonder what thoughts are constantly swirling around inside her mind. She refuses to explain her behavior. After reading dozens of case files, I came to understand that every single patient here is a human being, just like the rest of us, only suffering from torments that an ordinary mind can scarcely imagine. Last night, during my break, I was rereading some of the files when one patient's statement caught my attention. I know him. He's always quiet, withdrawn, and painfully obedient. But now I think that beneath all of that lies something everyone is familiar with. He's simply consumed by an obsession. All right, I'll tell you everything. Just get that thing away from me. No more electricity. You promised that if I told you everything, there wouldn't be any more electricity. It doesn't matter anymore. Nothing can be changed now. I know how it all started. Now that I've had time to think, everything finally makes sense. My friends and I were walking down the street together. It was an ordinary evening fueled by alcohol. We were heading toward another bar when some filthy-looking homeless guy with wild eyes suddenly slammed into me. He reeked of sweat and something else. And he spilled something on me. It landed right on my hands, more specifically, on my fingernails. Blood. He spilled blood on me. He froze, looking horrified and confused. "I'm sorry," he muttered before running away. The first thing I did after we got to the bar was wash my hands thoroughly. Wave after wave of disgust washed over me with every movement, but eventually I managed to scrub it all away. There wasn't a trace left. I tried to forget about the whole thing and went back to enjoying the evening with my friends. For a while after that, nothing unusual happened. Oh God, I remember every single moment of that night with perfect clarity. I was lying alone in my tiny, miserable apartment. Damn, I miss that place. Compared to your hospital rooms, it was paradise. I woke up just before it started. I lay there staring at the ceiling with an odd feeling I couldn't explain. Then, a bolt of agonizing pain shot through my entire body. I couldn't even scream. I remember staring at the thing for what felt like forever, unable to understand what had happened. It was sticking straight out of my shin. Long, thin, like a blade. Where had it come from? Had someone attacked me while I was asleep and driven that? Still unable to make sense of anything, I reached for my phone. Another wave of pain froze me in place. That's when I realized it was moving. That thing was moving inside my leg. Then another one suddenly appeared, as if it had grown out of my shin. The two blades began moving in opposite directions, slicing my leg open from the inside. For one horrifying moment, I imagined them continuing farther and farther, carving me into pieces from within. Looking back, that would have been the better outcome. There was no time to panic. The blades stopped moving. I stared at them, desperately clutching my leg. Then 2 more blades emerged from the wound, and it crawled out. Shaking violently, numb with shock and terror, I nevertheless felt an overwhelming sense of relief. I was still alive, but the moment I realized that something living had just crawled out of my leg, the panic came flooding back as though it had never left. Covered in my blood, the creature surveyed the room with 6 gleaming eyes. It looked as though it had been sculpted entirely from bone. It stood about 1/2 meter tall and resembled a spider. It had 6 razor-thin legs, the very legs it had used to carve its way out of me. "Unexpected," it said. "Wait, it didn't have a mouth. How was it speaking?" "Unexpected?" I asked, trembling with fear. "Who are you?" I was on the verge of tears. I just wanted it to leave. No one. The wrong answer. One of its limbs slid into the open wound in my leg, carefully avoiding the flesh and the flowing blood. A sharp pain exploded in my chest, and I suddenly became vividly aware that somehow it had pierced my shin bone and reached one of my ribs from the inside. I could feel the pointed tip pressing against my heart. Please, please, stop, I begged, sweat pouring into my eyes. I'll do anything you tell me, absolutely anything, just don't kill me. Acceptable, the creature replied. It withdrew its limb from my leg, and the pain in my chest vanished. You will do everything I command, otherwise, a painful death. Yes, yes, I understand. I managed to choke out between sobs. It crawled back into the wound in my leg and disappeared without giving me a single instruction. I went to the hospital where they stitched up my leg. I lied and said I'd been injured in a car accident. After that, I went back to my normal life. For a while, a few days later, it emerged again, tearing the stitches open. This time I was terrified, but I managed to keep from panicking long enough to get a better look at it. With its slender limbs, it looked utterly lethal, yet strangely beautiful, as though it had been carved from ivory into the shape of some bizarre insect. Surely someone had to know what it was. This time, it had orders. It forced me to carry out its whims. It began with petty crimes. It insisted everything be done in a very specific way, with carefully planted false evidence left behind. I never even bothered asking why. On its orders, I spent nights wandering through dangerous neighborhoods, though by then criminals themselves no longer frightened me. Another one of its servants gave me a long bone, apparently, from some animal that had been treated with the same strange blood that had started this entire nightmare. The creature often made me carry that bone through shady parts of town. It would emerge from it to speak with someone who knew what it was. Maybe that person even knew how to defend themselves against it. Perhaps they were negotiating something. I never saw them, and even if I had found them, would they have helped me? I doubt it. Night after night I searched in vain for answers, for help. Eventually, every last shred of hope died. I beat strangers. I tortured them. I robbed a convenience store at knife point. Once, it even forced me to smear that cursed blood onto another man's fingernails. I had to watch as he was slowly cut apart from the inside, as his arms fell off, as spinning blades burst from his knees, slicing him to pieces. As he screamed, as he begged for mercy, it tortured him because he knew something. What exactly? I have no idea. Then it made me gather what was left of him and dispose of the remains. Oh God. Whenever I wasn't carrying out the bone creature's commands, I searched desperately for anything. Anything that might distract me from the black well of despair slowly filling inside me. A couple of months later, my brother found me wandering the streets. I remember every detail of that conversation. You have to come home, he insisted. We'll help you get off the drugs. Dad will find you a job. I remember shouting back, it's not the drugs. They're the only reason I haven't completely lost my mind. It's because of that, bone creature. The instant I said those words, I felt a stabbing pain beneath my left shoulder blade, followed by the sensation of something thin pressing against my right lung. I realized it was listening. If I said another word, it would tear me apart. Get out of here! I screamed at my brother, slowly realizing I had become just like that filthy homeless man who had spilled blood on me. You can't help me. Just leave. After that, I threw myself into drugs with 3 times the enthusiasm. By then, there was nothing left of the person I used to be, so I decided I would never obey it again. Let it kill me. I didn't care anymore. I had a rifle. It had ordered me to buy it and learn how to use it. It wanted me to assassinate someone important. But I decided that when the time came, I would refuse. I wondered how it would kill me. Would it drive one of its razor-like limbs into my skull so I'd die instantly? Or would it kill me the way it killed that poor man, slowly, methodically cutting through every bone in my body? I stared at the rifle, wondering whether it might go after my family instead. Did I even have a choice? What if it killed my brother? My parents? I had to arrange things so that none of it could be blamed on me. I anonymously tipped off the police about my intentions. When they surrounded me, I felt nothing but calm and relief. I sat in my cell waiting for it. When it came, it would see there was no reason to punish my family. It would simply kill me, but it never came. Now I know why. But I'm broken, and in any case, I can't simply walk out of here. I can't stop thinking, what if it wasn't the only one? What if, one day, they'll come for me simply because I know they exist? Without warning, at any moment, I could feel a sharp pain, and then I'd be dead. Curiously, there appears to be a connection between this case and that of another patient who died recently. He was mutilated in an utterly incomprehensible way, as though his face had been sliced apart from the inside. His case made the news. The police linked him to a series of murders committed in a similar fashion and officially declared him responsible for them. This patient believes that, before dying, the man managed to kill the creature. My assumption is that he somehow gained access to the deceased patient's file and subsequently developed a delusion based on what he had read. It's an unsettling thought. Madness may be contagious. And in today's world, perhaps more than ever, I'm beginning to wonder whether this hospital exists not to treat its patients, but to keep them in quarantine. P.S. I'm now convinced that something truly inexplicable is happening.